American cars can't turn, is what I'd say if I had no idea what I was talking about. Yeah, sure, cars like the Dodge Hellcat have a reputation of being literal land yachts, but there is more American cars than just the Dodge Hellcat, you people. So in this video, I'm gonna be challenging the common misconception that American cars can't turn for nothing. From four-door sedans quicker than your favorite supercars to even a secret car on this list that has more track records than literally every single car in the world. Yeah, it gets juicy. These are 12 American cars that could actually corner. We're gonna start off with two honorable mentions because both these cars aren't out at the moment, but they are bound to be track weapons. The Ford Mustang GTD and the Chevrolet Corvette C7 ZR1. These cars aren't out yet. I mean, they've been reviewed, but they aren't technically on the market for sale. As we know, the ZR1s have always been nice on the tracks, and even the Z06s. The C7 Z06 is currently one of the fastest American track cars. We'll get to that later, but just imagine how crazy the ZR1 would be. It's rumored to have a twin-turbo 5.5-liter LT7 V8, which produces about 700 horsepower and 850 pound-feet of torque. Those are exciting output numbers if you ask me. Similar to the C7 ZR1, it's likely to have extended rear wings, front splitter, blah blah blah, all that nobody cares. The Mustang GT though will be a limited production supercar. Supercar? I don't know, but I do know it's gonna have a 5.2 liter supercharged V8, and it will produce over 800 horsepower and have an 8-speed dual clutch transmission similar to the C7 ZR1. The only thing that confuses me between these two cars is that the Mustang GTD is literally double the price of the C7 ZR1. Me personally, I think that's crazy, but the GTD will probably sell out fast anyways. Maybe I could get one. Okay, let's actually start with the first car on this list that can actually turn, the Ford GT/GT40. First off, the Ford GT40 is probably the face of American track cars. It led the way for the future of racing in America. It was most famous for its 4 consecutive wins at Le Mans 24 Hours from 1966 to 1969. The main mission of the Ford GT40 was simple: defeat Ferrari. Ferrari versus Ford was one of, if not the most iconic rivalry in racing history. The full story is depicted in the 2019 movie Ford vs Ferrari, which I 100% recommend to anybody watching this. The GT40 featured a 7-liter 427 cubic inch V8, which put out about 485 horsepower, which is a crazy number for the 60s, by the way. The car utilized a steel monocoque chassis, which helped with its incredibly lightweight design. It was only about 2,400 pounds. Its successor, the current day Ford GT, continues its legacy by dominating on modern tracks as well. It set production car lap records at the Car and Drivers lap competition at Virginia International Raceway. It beat the previous record of another car, which I will be mentioning later on this list, so stay tuned. All in all, the GT40 and the Ford GT are just one of many American cars that not only perform excellent on tracks, but they actually outperform many of the European competitors. The GT40 outperforming the Ferrari, and the Ford GT being a faster track car than the Porsche 918 Spider, the Mercedes AMG GTR, and plenty more European cars. The Mark IV Ford GT still hasn't done a hot lap in the Nürburgring, which realistically, that is the main lap that everybody wants to see. So it is something that we want to see out of Ford in the future. Aside that, in the tracks that I actually tested in, it's definitely always been one of the best, if not the best performing car. The next car on this list is similar to the Ford GT, I'd say. It's another supercar that is known for its racing history, the Seline S7. The S7 was designed by a former racing driver named Steve. So with his racing background and his idea to build American supercar, he only had one thing in mind: the S7 must be able to turn. And oh boy could it turn. It comes standard with the 7-liter twin-turbo V8 that produces 750 horsepower. It came out in the year 2000, and it could accelerate from 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds, and it had a top speed of 248 miles per hour. It was quite literally one of the fastest cars ever at its time. The main car I do want to cover in this video though is its racing variant, the Seline S7R. It competed in various endurance races across the globe, including the 24 Hours of Le Mans, 12 Hours of Sebring, and the FIA GT Championship. I made a whole video already covering every single thing about the Seline S7, from its rise to fame to its downfall. If you want to watch that video, wait till this one is over and then go watch it, okay? Okay. What made the Seline S7R a good track car? First, its power to weight ratio was exceptional. And remember, this car was built from the ground up from a racing driver named Steve. The S7 is just one of those cars that you can't hate as well. It's crazy how many people don't even know it exists. Anyways, moving on. For this next car, we have the Camaro ZL1 1LE, the fastest muscle car around the Nürburgring track. at least according to them. I personally think the ZR1 is more of a sports car than a muscle car at this point, but hey, it's still pretty fast. It has a much quicker time than lots of decorated supercars, including the Lexus LFA, the Mercedes SLS AMG, the Audi R8, the Ferrari 458, and I could just go on, but you get the point. The ZL1 comes standard with the 6.2 liter supercharged LT4 V8, which delivers 650 horsepower and 650 pound-feet of torque. The ZL1 does come with the option of a 10-speed automatic, but if you really wanted to, you could opt out for the 6-speed manual transmission. The ZL1 on its own is more of a straight-line version of the Camaro. I mean, it could corner decently, but the 1LE package completely transforms this car into a race car. It includes improved aerodynamics, which can be noticed throughout the carbon fiber wing, larger splitter, and additional dive planes. It also comes with suspension upgrades, weight reduction, better track wheels and tires, upgraded braking systems, upgraded cooling systems, and also an improved interior, surprisingly. Out of the famous muscle car trios like the Dodge, the Camaros, and the Mustangs, the ZL1 has always been that brother that represents the track times, and the ZL1 1LE stands on that. Speaking of the trio, the Mustang GT500 is another American car that you shouldn't underestimate on the track. Yeah, I'm aware of the stereotypes, Mustangs, crowds, it's kind of a bad look, but trust, the GT500 isn't just a Mustang. Its history in circuits like Le Mans and the FIA GT Championship proves it. What makes the GT500 different from its base model GT is its engine and the track features, as you'd probably know already. It has a 5.2 liter supercharged Predator V8 that produces 760 horsepower, and its track capabilities are extremely underrated. Similar to the 1LE, it's taken the base model and given it some steroids, making it much better. The GT500 is at the top of its food chain when it comes to its competitors in a straight line. In a road race, the GT500 is quicker than the Hellcat, ZL1, every single BMW, every single Mercedes, except the AMG 1. I could go on and on. The GT500 isn't a joke, and the fact that it's much cheaper than its German competitors while performing better proves how valuable this car really is. This video is about turning though, and while the S550 GT500 doesn't officially have a Nürburgring time, its 2013 version has a time of 7 minutes and 39 seconds. So now imagine how much better of a time the newer model is. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It has been driven on several local tracks though, including the Virginia International Raceway, the Laguna Seca Raceway, Road Atlanta, etc. The GT500 has a significantly higher time on these tracks than many of its European competitors. So although it doesn't have an official time on the ring yet, you can kind of estimate how well it would do. I kind of want to know though, why do many American cars don't actually have a lap on the Nürburgring? Somebody let me know in the comments, that's kind of weird. The next car I do want to talk about though is my dream car, and if you watch my videos, you know what I'm gonna say. The Corvette C7 Z06. Honestly, I could sit here and glaze this car for like 2 days straight. That's just how much I love it. It's a beast in a straight line, but it also dominates on the track. It has the same engine as the Camaro ZL1, which is the 6.2 liter supercharged LT4 V8. It also produces the same horsepower and torque, but it is lighter and more aerodynamic. And it produces more downforce, which makes it quicker on the track than the ZL1, especially with the optional Z07 package. The Z06 is one of the best cars, if not the best car you could get for its price. It has proven time and time again that it can defeat cars that are up to 2, 3, and even 4 times its price. What makes the car so good is its practicality. It can be driven as a daily driver, which I will be doing when I get it, stay tuned. And it can also be taken to the track. The only problem is that these cars, specifically the automatic transmission, have cooling issues when tracked hard. The problem is mitigated in the 7-speed manual transmission though. I think it has something to do with the 7-speed having an extra oil cooling or something like that. Hey, don't quote me on it, but that's what GM says. They recommend if you want to track the C7 Z06, go with the 7-speed manual. Since we're on the topic of Corvettes, we might as well talk about the next cars, the C6 and the C7 ZR1, which at the moment is the pinnacle of the Corvette lineup. The ZR1s are what I like to think of the Z06s, but much better. The C6 ZR1 took the Z06 and slapped the supercharger on it. Well, not literally, because it is an LS9 compared to the Z06's LS7. But what I'm trying to say is that the Z06 is naturally aspirated and the ZR1 is supercharged. When the C6 ZR1 first came out, it was revolutionary. It was an American underdog that decimated all of its competition on the track, even cars that were twice the price. The C6 ZR1 was the peak of American engineering at its time, and at the moment, that legacy is being carried by the C7 ZR1. It's currently the second fastest tested American car at the Nürburgring, and at the moment, it's the peak of the Corvette lineage. Well, that's until the C8 ZR1 comes out, which I know will be crazy, but for now, the C6 and the C7 ZR1 are those guys. I want to step away from the obvious supercars and sports cars for the moment, and I want to ask you guys this. Think of any American sedan that deserves to be on this list. Go ahead, I'll give you 3 seconds. I'm pretty sure many of you couldn't think of one because all of you assume that the Hellcat Charger is the only sedan produced by America. But the car in question was actually the Cadillac CT5V Blackwing, which I would go as far to argue that is my favorite sports sedan ever, even over the M3, M5, AMG GT63, E63, and all the European sedans. I mean, what other sedan can you get that offers a 6.2 liter supercharged V8 that produces 688 horsepower and has the option of a manual transmission? Name me one car that's even close to that. And plus, the Blackwing isn't your typical American car where it's just a big engine producing ludicrous horsepower and nothing else. It's also the pinnacle of luxury for American cars. It's a performance sedan that looks good on the outside and feels good on the inside. This video isn't about how it feels though, it's about how well it performs on a track, and it actually does that surprisingly well. Better than most people will think for sure. Just like many of the cars on this list, it hasn't done a hot lap around the Nürburgring, but for the laps it's done, its time speaks for itself. It's a sedan that puts up supercar numbers. Maybe one day I'll own one, who knows? There's been a lot of crazy cars on this list, and it gets even crazier, trust me. But I do want to remind you guys, if you've made it this far, consider dropping a like and subscribing if you're new, so you never miss another video. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, I've made a Patreon! Yay! Shout out to everyone who's subscribed. But if you do want to subscribe and support me further, the link would be in the description and in the pinned comment. The next car on this list is a 14-year-old car that's still one of the fastest American cars around the track. That is the 2010 Dodge Viper ACR, which I believe is the 4th gen. Vipers are what I like to think of as the American Porsches because all their cars are no joke when it comes to the track. The 2010 Viper ACR is the 4th fastest American car around the Nürburgring track, and it's 14 years old. Now imagine what the newer Dodge Viper ACR does, but don't worry, we'll get there. The ACR, which stands for American Club Racer, is a highly specialized version of the original Dodge Viper. Think of it as what the ZR1 is to the base model Corvettes. Does that analogy make sense? I don't know, but the ACR is a significant step up from the base models. It featured a juicy 8.4 liter V10, which produced 600 horsepower to the crank. And for all you people that always talk about American cars are the only country that can get 600 horsepower from an 8 liter V10, blah 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 blah. No one cares. The Vipers have always stood out as the go-to track cars for America, and that's rightfully so. Even for over a decade ago, the 2010 ACR can still compete and even outperform plenty of local and international cars, so don't sleep on it. If you thought that car was crazy, meet its even crazier brother, the 2016 Dodge Viper ACR, the daddy of American track cars. It had the same 8.4 liter V10 as the 2010 Viper, but it got 45 more horsepower. This car single-handedly has the fastest times on the most tracks than literally every single car. I'm talking Porsches, Mercedes, everything. It has over a dozen lap records, and even on the Nürburgring, it's the fastest American car, and it has the record for being the fastest manual transmission car with just a time shy of 7 minutes. This car is actually crazy, and it brings up the question I have for you. If you could take any car for a hot lap, it doesn't even have to be an American car. I'm talking any car. If you could take a car of your choice for a hot lap around the Nürburgring, what car would it be? I'd choose the Viper ACR, but I'll more than likely crash it and die. And I love life, so I'll probably go with something more laid back like a C7 Z06. What would you pick? Let me know in the comments. We have 3 more cars on this list, so I'll get on with them quickly. The next car that does surprisingly well is the Hennessy Venom F5 Revolution. Why I say surprisingly is because this car is a top speed car. Most top speed cars aren't great when it comes to turning, but the F5 Revolution is different. It currently has the lap record at the Circuit of America, which it absolutely demolished the 2nd place time. In all fairness, this lap is mostly straights, and a car like the F5 would obviously rip in the straights, but that's not to take away from its track abilities. I just wish it'd do a run on a more decorated track, like for say the Nürburgring. It is an excellent car though, for sure. I'm not gonna take that away. But the second to the last car is the Shelby GT350R, which is a more toned down version of the GT500 I mentioned earlier. By toned down, I don't mean experience wise, I mean performance wise, because driving the GT350R can't be compared to anything else. It has a 5.2 liter flat plane crank V8 that could rev all the way to almost 8,500 RPM, and it's arguably the best sounding V8 on the planet. Listen for yourself. Yeah, it's crazy. The GT350R isn't quite as track focused as the Mustang GTD and the GT500, but it's still an upgrade over the base models and the GT. It was limited to only a 6-speed manual, making it a true driver's car to the enthusiast. If I was to ever get a Mustang, it would more than likely be the GT350R because I love this car so much. 10 out of 10. The final car on this list though is the Corvette C7 Z06. I feel like this list was strictly Corvettes and Vipers, but hey, they make excellent cars, so there's nothing I could do. I can't take that away from them. And the C7 Z06 is no different. When the C8 generation was first announced to have a mid-engine layout, it wasn't really taken well to majority of people. But the C7 Z06 did change many perspectives, including mine, on why the mid-engine layout is indeed revolutionary. I still don't think it represents Corvettes quite well, but as an aspiring supercar, it definitely ticks all the boxes. This car is great on the track, and the price is actually decent. You get a nice high-quality interior, unlike many of the Corvettes. You get a 5.5 liter flat plane crank V8, which is the most powerful NA V8 in the world, and it sounds like this. You also get a 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, which is just crazy to me for a rear-wheel drive, and you get a top speed of 200 miles per hour. This car is just a complete package, and I think it's the perfect way to end this list. So that has been 11, 12, I don't remember, but that has been American cars that can actually take corners contrary to popular belief. The next time someone says American cars are only built for straight lines, show them this video and give them a reality check. Make sure to subscribe, like, and take it easy. Until next time, my friends.